Hello everyone, this is Peter Deswood, the instructor for Accounting 310, Accounting for Governmental and Not-for-Profit Organizations. So this is going to be the presentation or the lecture. I did add the slide share into the assignments module, so here's the actual lecture. So not-for-profit organizations, they're governmental, state and local governments. For example, City of Kayenta is a nonprofit organization, or I should say the Township of Kayenta. Also, County of Apache or Apache County, Navajo County, things of that nature. State of Arizona. Special school districts, actually all school districts are not-for-profit organizations. Let's see. Hospitals, county hospitals, also St. Jude's, hospitals like that. The federal government is also a not-for-profit organization. U.S. government and its various agencies. Then non-governmental would be things like United Way, American Red Cross, colleges, certain colleges, big universities like Vanderbilt, ASU, University of Arizona, places like that. Also Methodist Healthcares, can't think of any right now, but St. Jude's is one of them as well. Habitat for Humanity, that's a non-governmental. If you have a nonprofit that you run where you receive nonprofit status, then that's how you would account for your books. Learning objectives for this course is going to be obtain an overview of financial reporting for non-business entities. Also, distinguish between private and public sector organizations. Identify the sources of authoritative accounting standards for various public and private sector organizations. And finally, defining the 11 fund types used by state and local governments. So we'll go through those learning objectives. Those are important. So standard setting organizations. Here's a summary of them. This is also in the book. Federal government is bound by FASAB, Federal Accounting Standards Advisory Board. State and local governments are GASB. Public not-for-profits, also GASB. Private not-for-profits are the FASB. Investor-owned businesses, that's the FASB. So there's a couple of examples. Definition of a government, popular election or appointed by popular elected officials. Potential for unilateral dissolution by government. Power to tax, power of issuance of tax-exempt debt directly. Financial reporting, not-for-profits. Governmental, state and local government. Objectives, gap hierarchy. Let's see, GASB is the king or the queen. Federal, objectives, gap is a hierarchy, very hierarchical. There's also FASB is king or queen. That's just kind of confusing, but non-governmental objective is page 6. This is, by the way, not in the book, but it's referred to in the FASB gap hierarchy. Let's see, FASB again. Recent FASB activity. So those are. It was updated in the 90s and it's been updated recently as well. So there's different SFASs to take into account. So state and local government, there's financial reporting. Users, considerations are much more diverse. So the users, investors and creditors also look at that. Legislative and oversight officials, they need information, very similar to a for-profit organization. The purpose of accounting is for accountability and also to make decisions and to see where you're at, how to appropriate funds, things of that nature. Political and social decision as well as economic. Measurement focus. Economic resources, making sure our resources are being utilized according to the way that we said they were, or so that there's accountability to the people. Flow of current financial resources as well, as we need to take that into account when we look at measurement. Basis of accounting, it's definitely accrual or modified accrual. And the method of reporting will definitely be the comprehensive annual financial report. So that's the main document that you look at. Sections of the CAFR, which is the comprehensive annual financial report. So there's an introduction, there's the financial, there's the statistical, and those are the components. Exchange and non-exchange transactions. So exchange is each party receives and gives up equal value. City cleans up privately owned property and bills the owner for the services. So that's kind of what happens. Like, I live in the city of Farmington, so if your property is bad and they clean it up for you, they'll definitely bill you. Non-exchange would be one party does not receive proportionate value for their value given up. So property tax revenue. There's also county taxes. There's also local taxes, things of that nature. So financial statements, government-wide, accrual base of accounting, economic resource measurement focus, a statement of net assets, a statement of activities, fund, a fiscal and accounting entity, modified accrual basis of accounting. And we'll get into that as we go through this book. So this is kind of the background to the actual government and not-for-profit organizations. So flow of current financial resources, management focus. Each fund is a self-balancing set of accounts. So there's always a balancing act. There's always checks and balances that occur. Fund financial statements, governmental funds, the balance sheet, statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. Proprietary funds, statement of net assets, statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund net assets. Statement of cash flows. So some of these are very similar to for-profit organization. So there's some similarities and some definitely unique differences. Fund financial statements. There's a fiduciary fund, statement of fiduciary net assets, statement of changes in net fiduciary assets. So you need to look at the changes. There's also some special considerations we have to take into account. Differences in measurement focus and basis of accounting between government-wide and fund financial statements require reconciliation schedules. So we'll take a look at some of those. Fiduciary fund statements are not included in the government-wide financial statements. Types of governmental funds. This is one of the learning objectives. Governmental, there's a general, there's special revenue, there's capital projects, debt service, permanent, there's proprietary funds, enterprise, internal service, and then the fiduciary funds, there's the agency, and then there's a pension trust, there's investment trust as well, private purpose trust. So we'll take a look at all of these different type of governmental funds, and the funds are explained a little bit more. This is very similar to the book, the general fund, the capital project funds, debt service, special revenue, permanent funds. Those are all explained in more detail on page 15. So I just copied that over so we can, if you need to look at that a little bit more further, and it's also in the slide. So summary of funds used by state and local governments. So fiduciary, the fund is private purpose trust, investment trust, pension trust, and agency. And then the accrual, the type of accounting that you're going to have to do is right here, accrual, and then modified accrual. And we'll get into that as we go through, unless you remember it from accounting 200 or 201. So fund basis, financial statements are listed over there on the right. Government, there's a permanent, there's a debt, there's capital projects, special revenue. So the financial statements that you'll see are definitely over there, are listed over on the right. So you can take a look at that a little bit further, and that is also listed in the book. So governmental funds and budgeting. So required for governmental type funds, optional for proprietary type funds. They're adopted by the legislative body, so the legislation definitely takes that into account. So disregard the little pop-up on the right. My wife is trying to call in. So adopted by the legislative body, entered into the accounting records in reverse debit credit approach. So we'll take a look at that. This is just the background behind everything. So a part of appropriate financial statements and or schedules. Accounting for capital assets and infrastructure. So long-lived assets, all except collections of works of arts and historical treasures must be capitalized and depreciated on government-wide and propriety fund financial statements. So we'll get into that a little bit more. Capital assets and related depreciation expense do not appear on governmental type or fund financial statements. Let's see, and more elaborate discussion in the next chapter as well as we go through this. Again, this is kind of an intro to the entire book, what we'll look at. Long-term debt, payable more than 1 year from statement of net assets date. All entity long-term debt must be reported on all the statements of net assets. Okay, governmental type funds do not report long-term debt on financial statement. So a flow of current financial resource measurement focus. Let's see, and that's kind of an intro into the I guess the class. But feel free, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, please feel free to email me, and then I will respond. I've been responding to everyone's email. So this is kind of just an intro, and I'll add the homework on the bottom of the assignments tab. So thank you. I hope you enjoy the weekend, and I look forward to working with each of you this semester. Thank you. Yeah, go net.